Flood tried to warn him, saying that it had to have been another of the Gorfs, but Momo didn't listen because for him this didn't sound like the Gorfs. This sounded like an actual child in need. Burns begins jumping and quaking and dancing at you, getting her out of combat, and she falls down and lands on her back on you and goes like ah, and then you watch as Momo with his other dagger manages to completely decapitate the witch. You, Momo, the baby, Flood, and the orc all get on the horses and on his cart and begin riding towards GristleMon. You, Flood, the orc, the baby, and Momo are on the road to GristleMon. You are traveling there to help the orc into the town. Upon the trail, you, Momo, and the orc and Sir Flood had all discussed all that happened at the glowing tree and the witch who resided there. Mm-hmm. After the discussion, the orc begins telling you about GristleMon, the village of Heart.
Well, sorry. The GristleMon, all being filled with dogs and wolves, is known as the village of Heart. You can hear their dogs from miles and miles around because there's just so many of them. Now, the thing about GristleMon, the reason why it is called the Village of Heart is because they give everything to all of their crafts. If you're looking for the best blacksmith, GristleMon has it. Even better than the king's blacksmith. If you're looking for babysitters, oh, will they take care of your baby. If you're looking for teachers, they will teach your mind off. They're as good and or better than the king's royal teachers. That's right, little one. The teachers are immaculate.
Sounds like a nice place to be.
It is. For me, I work in the mines. But I also had to go and gather supplies for the company.
What kind of supplies?
More supplies than the city had. If I were to buy as much food, water, and everything that we needed, as well as axes and pickaxes and lighting spells, we would have drained the entire community dry.
Well, that wouldn't be good, so...
No, very much not. I had traveled between 3 different villages, including the capital of Nochia, to gather the supplies. I did not want to take supplies from just one village.
Well, that's nice of you. Other people need their supplies too.
as you are talking, and you hit a very hard bump, one that feels like it is almost earth-shattering on the barrel wheel that Momo had attached to the wagon. The little one enjoyed the bounce, and she begins playing and scrounging and confusing everybody. The mom begins doing fart noises to make the baby laugh more. And upon reaching the village, you see the most immaculate village you've ever seen, carved from stone. Everything looks stunning. You go and you see the blacksmith that the orc was talking about. You see a tailor. You see a herbalist. You see a farm. You see surprisingly, a hairstylist. You see a school, and the baby sees all of this and gets extremely excited, and for some reason keeps yelling out Emma. Without any idea who that is, you believe that that was their former mother. And upon going to the town, the orc looks at all of you and says,
I'll be right over there.
and he points over to where the mine is.
Do you want to go with me to mine, or do you want to explore the town?
I wouldn't mind exploring the town.
Well, Momo will go with Sid maybe. Sir Flood keeps panning between him, the cart, you two getting out, the baby, the cart, him, everything else. And he hears the baby and he's like,
You know what?
I believe I will go with them. And the baby does that sound and moves to go with Sir Flood. And upon getting out of the cart, the orc waves goodbye and says,
I'll see you guys in a little bit.
and all of you wave goodbye. Where would you like to visit first?
Oh, I might go into some shops first.
Alright. What direction do you walk?
Right.
North, east, southwest?
East.
Okay, you begin walking east towards the mine. Momo turns around, very confused, and sees that there's no shops where where you're heading. You're going straight towards the mine where you just told the orc you would meet him at, and he picks you up and just like begins dragging you and puts you on his head and just turns around and walks towards the shops. There's shops all over, just not where you are, and Sir Flood like whacks his knee across some wood. It's like, Gah! Sid maybe gets whacked in the face by some of Momo's hair, and The baby is pulling on Momo's hair. Like, ow! And the baby stops for a couple minutes. And you all begin walking. You all begin walking north.
A toy or the ball or something.
You all begin walking north towards the shops. What shop are you wanting to go to?
Clothing shop.
Okay. You say that to Momo, and Momo begins walking towards the tilted carton. Momo doesn't know what clothes are.
What you're wearing. Momo.
Oh! And he begins walking towards the mannequin.
Alright.
He opens up the door and you hear a cha-ching of a bell. And as soon as you enter, you see mannequins everywhere. Some wearing armor, some wearing clothes, some wearing some really revealing things, some wearing only hats and nothing else, some wearing only shoes and nothing else. You see literally a mannequin that's somehow wearing tattoos.
Back in my world, I know somebody who would be scared to even set foot in this place.
Huh. Who?
His name is No Shire.
No Shire?
That's right.
He, Momo looks at you as you say No Shire, and he begins to get very confused. He's like, okay, Momo sees that, I guess. And begins slowly slapping the baby's hands off things as she begins grabbing the mannequins. And then getting upset that she's not allowed to grab the mannequins. As everything is going on, you see Sir Flood walk over to a thing of solid gold armor and begins walking straight towards it.
Where you going, Flood? See something you like?
This armor will look so good on the king. It would look
Good on the
so
king, huh?
Oh yes.
Sure
You've
not-
seen the king,
Sure not
right?
you, huh?
Oh, honey, I could never pull something off this fancy.
I think you could. You should try it on.
He looks at him. He looks at you and goes, I don't know if I should.
I think you should. Put on a show, Flood.
Flood begins taking off his armor, and one by one you hear clangs of metal hitting the ground,
Go, Mimi.
and Flood is getting very upset that his armor's not making as much of a thud as he wished it did. And
You watch as Momo sets something on the counter. It looks a lot like one of the flasks, and another customer is coughing in the inner room, and Flood begins taking off his armor one by one, and he puts on the chest plate, and it does not fit. It's not even close. He takes off his helmet, and you cannot see his face, but you can see that he has long blonde hair. And he begins to put the helmet on, and he can't get it over the top of his head. And he's pushing down. He's like, ow. Ow. He takes that off and puts his helmet back on. So now he's just standing in the room with his blue shirt that has like slashes through it. And the baby's screaming at him because it's not working, that he can't get anything on. And he looks at you and Momo and says, I took off enough. I am not going to be taking off my pants or my shoes.
Hey, Flood. I think instead of looking at armor, you should be looking at shirts.
The baby begins messing with Momo's drink that he had sat down. And Flood looks and agrees and says, you know what, you may actually be right. Sir Flood goes and finds pure white clothes to go underneath his armor, and you can see that he also discovers some pure black armor in the corner of the shop. It begins walking towards it.
Where are you going?
Flood does not answer. It is if he is in a trance. And you just see the shopkeeper like finally come out of the back and notice Flood walking towards the armor, and you just see him go, oh! No, I do not sell this to anyone. This armor chooses its owner. And you see that Flood still cannot hear him. The baby is calling to Flood, and he is not answering. He is walking straight towards this armor. And you watch as Flood picks up and touches the armor, and you watch as his armor turns black.
Uh-oh.
His armor is being consumed by the black armor. And the baby is worried about Flood and is saying words. And is getting more and more concerned about Flood.
Well, this definitely isn't good.
And you watch as in within, let's say about 10 seconds, Flood's armor is completely taken over by this armor, and Flood is back. What happened to me? Anybody know what happened to me?
No. Not exactly.
Okay, not exactly. What metaphorically happened to me?
Well, Momo, you want to explain?
Momo is pretty sure you got possessed by armor. I got possessed by armor.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I said.
And he looks down, his all of his armor is black. He doesn't remember putting it on. He doesn't even remember seeing the black armor. The last thing he remembers was putting on the white clothes, and now he's in black armor and white clothes. He's like, well, I expected a lot of things. This is not one of them. How much for the armor? The shopkeeper looks and says, well, it wasn't for sale. That armor chooses its owner, its host. And he looks at Flood and says, you are now its owner. Flood looks at him and says, what do you mean I am now its owner? And the shop owner says, well, that is technically cursed armor. And he looks at Sid Baby and Momo and says, your friend is now cursed.
Great job, Flood. Great job.
Flood looks at you and says, what did I do?
You had to walk over and touch it, didn't you?
Flood looks at you and says, you had us come in here.
Not for you to
You
be
got me
cursed.
cursed.
No, I didn't say go touch the armor, did I? I said we're
I
done with
don't even
armor.
remember touching the armor. Last thing I remember was putting on white clothes. You did this to me.
I did not. You touched the armor, that's on you.
You two begin bickering for like 10 minutes straight out who did what. And the baby's getting upset and begins screaming at both of you. And the baby begins saying words to try and convince you two to stop fighting. And all of a sudden, the Momo walks over while the baby is screaming and begins asking the shop owner what type of curse it is. Momo was wondering what type of curse it is. The shop owner looks and says, well, it's kind of The baby screams.
The baby screams a lot.
The baby screams at Flood as he begins to try and argue with Sid maybe again, and the shop owner says of death.
Great going, Flood. Of all the curses you had to pick.
Momo heard the beginning but missed. Momo missed the beginning of what the shopkeeper was saying and only heard of death and became very worried and asked, can you say that again? And the shop owner repeats himself and says, oh, my bad. It is the black waters of death. Momo, thank you. Momo is handed by the shopkeeper some cheese crunchies by the shopkeeper saying, oh, these are from Diner's Lack, the shop right next to us. They make a lot of cheese products, mostly because their owner also is the farm goer. And they made these things called cheese crunchies. And I'm going to give these to you because your friend is now cursed.
How considerate.
Thank you. No one's ever said that to me before for giving them something about a cursed friend.
I wonder why.
I wonder too. It's very considerate. And you all just walk out. You hear the clicking of the door opening again, and you walk outside. You've stolen the bag from. You stole the bag from Momo and begin eating it, and realize this tastes exactly like Cheetos Puffs.
It's been a long time since I've had a Cheeto Puff.
It's been exactly 2 months since you've had a Cheeto Puff.
Exactly. A long time.
And you begin traveling, and you are looking around at other shops. What shop would you like to travel to next?
I go to the food markets over there. Those look good.
You walk over to the food stalls that are right next to the shops, and right next to the food market is also the blacksmith, in which Momo drops you off and walks over to the blacksmith.
Where you going?
Momo wanna see blacksmith. Momo needs to have repair on his armor, and he needs a new dagger. And he pulls up his dagger. His dagger is bent in half.
All right. I'll get you something here.
Thank you. And he walks into the blacksmith shop.
Oh, yeah. Baby, look at that food over there. How much for these weird shaped cake things?
He looks at you and says, "What weird shape?"
The thing that I'm pointing at right here.
He sees you pointing at a thing on the ground and realizes that his cat pooped in one of the things. And says, "Gosh darn it! This is why I can't sell certain products, Anzi." And he's like yelling into the back, and you see a little. No, he's yelling at his daughter named Anzi. She's a little dwarf girl. And you see Anzi walk out. She's got bright red hair, eyebrows that come down to like where her mouth is. And she's got the brightest green eyes you've ever seen, even brighter than floods. Like, this girl's eyes could pierce the sun with how green they are. And she walks out, and she's wearing lederhosens and stuff. She looks like one of those pictures of she looks like one of those photos of a dwarf girl from Sweden. Like in the old times where they're wearing lederhosens and things, and she comes out and she's like, da 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 da. What do you mean? And I better not get canceled for this. She comes out, she's like, da 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 da. What do you mean? And he looks at her and says, and he's even confused by why she's wearing what she's wearing and stuff, and goes, we'll have this conversation later. Get muffins to stop pooping in our containers.
Ooh, muffins. Do you have muffins?
He looks at you and says, "What's muffins?"
Oh, no, Lord.
I
don't know your lingo.
What
food do you suggest that I have?
I'm sorry, young fairy, but I'm not selling my cat to you. My cat is not food for you.
Trust me, I don't want your cat.
Alright. Rude, but okay. He's a little bit disappointed that you don't want the cat. He looks and says, well, we have dragon berries, we have dingles, we have schlots, we have bots, we have gnats, we have bats, and we have shats.
I don't know what any of that is.
He points over to something that looks like a raspberry, says, "Those are gnats." Points over to a thing that looks a lot like a lemon cake. He says, "Those are bats." Points over towards what looks like a watermelon, says, "Those are dats." Points over towards the horse, says, "Those are cats." He points over towards Leroy and says, "That's Leroy." And it points down towards right below them that look like blueberries and says, "Those are shats." And he begins watching you eat the cheese things as he waits for you to give him an answer on things he would like.
I'll take some of the whatever this cake looking lemon thing is. What I don't remember the name.
How many bats would you like?
Well, how much is it gonna cost for a few, like 3 or 4?
I would say about 3 gold. 3 gold for 3, 4 gold for 4.
I'll take 2 of these bats and a handful of the gnats.
Alright, that'll be 20 gold.
Here you go.
He looks and you give him 2 gold pieces. He's like, and just hands you 2 of the bats. And sets the rest in what looks like a register and says, "That was not quite enough for everything that you had ordered."
Alright. Well, I'll see if my friends can come in and get the rest.
Switch over to Momo. Momo's in there in the blacksmith shop. He had just entered. And he's like, "Hi. Can Momo get his blade fixed?" And he's like showing the blacksmith his bent dagger that's like full of like sharp like cuts and breaks in it. And the blacksmith goes like,
What did you do to this?
he's like, Momo's had a couple run-ins. And you can hear the baby from inside the building outside. And he's like, Momo's had a couple run-ins. His most recent run-in was with a witch and a were. And the blacksmith looks and he's like, "You dealt with a were." And Momo says, "Do you want Momo to show you how?" And the blacksmith says, "Honestly, kind of." And Momo goes and grabs him by the shoulder and casts shadow lining, and they go into the ground. All of a sudden, Momo releases, and they both come out of the ground, and the blacksmith is a little shaken up, and he whacks his head on the back of the counter and goes like, "Ah, son of a..." Starts rubbing the back of his head. He cracks his neck and says, "All right. Yeah, I can believe that. All right." And he looks and says, "What would you like? Would you like your dagger repaired, or would you like to have another dagger?" What type of daggers do you have? And he pulls out an assortment, and you see Momo eyeball a dagger that with the handle that looks a lot like a dog, and he goes, "Oh." And then he sees another one that has a handle that looks a lot like a face. He's like, "Oh." He sees another one that looks a lot like a horse. He's like, "Oh." He sees another one that looks a little bit inappropriate. He's like, "Ooh." He sees another one where the blade looks inappropriate. He's like, "Ooh." He sees another one where the blade looks a lot like a cat's tail. And it's like, "Oh." And he sees another one where the entire thing is made out of like ware's teeth. He's like, because he doesn't want to touch that one because he has bad history with wares. And then he sees another one, and this one really catches his eye. He can hear the baby in his mind telling him to get it. The baby's in his mind yelling at him to get this blade. And he says, I'll take that one. And the blacksmith looks over and says, I see. You choose the cutler. And you see that it is what looks like a Bowie knife, but the hilt looks a lot like a German Shepherd. He's like, ha. So it looks like a Bowie knife with a German Shepherd hilt, and then back to a Bowie knife kind of handle grip. And he's like, all right, that'll be about 20 gold. Momo hears the baby begin crying at the price in his head. He's like, I'll take it. And he goes to reach for the Bowie knife as he pays, and all of a sudden 2 more knives fly out at him.
Wow.
He grabs the Bowie looking dagger and he picks it up, and all of a sudden 2 more blades fly out at him, one with a golden retriever hilt and one with a chihuahua hilt. The golden retriever goes into his left hand, the German Shepherd goes into his right, and the chihuahua goes into his hilt. And the blacksmith looks at him and says, that was what the 20 was for. Lucky you. These are also cursed weapons. Momo and Flood also have cursed items now. And Momo hilts the other blades on his armor and begins walking out of the blacksmith after paying. Momo walks outside and he sees you and you waving him down.
Momo! Momo!
Momo walks over to you.
I got you cake.
Oh, thank you. He begins taking bites of it.
Good, isn't it?
It kind of sounds like a bat.
Cake.
Yeah, the bat cakes. Thank you for the cake.
You're welcome. Do you have any extra money? I was trying to get berries and stuff, but they said I didn't have enough for it.
Oh, sure. And he pulls out like 100 coins and says, 100 gold coins. Says, how much you need?
I think 20, but I don't remember.
He pulls out 20 gold coins and hands them to you. Oh wait. He pulls them back. Says, you can barely carry one.
Yeah, you want to take it in there and say that you're my friend coming in to get the rest of what I wanted?
Sure. Walks into the food shop that you were just in and talks to the owner and hands the gold coins and then gets the gnats that you had ordered and 2 more of the bats for some reason. He's like, all right, and begins walking back out to you. And he's got, he hears the baby crying that she wasn't in there to get it, and you see him come out with like a cake bag and a cake box and a bag of berries.
Yeah. Yummy.
You guys have not seen Flood in 15 minutes. The baby begins coughing.
Oh, I took a big drink. How about we go look for Flood?
Where is Flood?
I'm not sure.
You see Flood in the armor and still in the clothing shop.
Oh, alright. Let's go get him before he gets something else that's not good. Hey,
You can see him.
Momo, did you find your daggers? Did you get them fixed?
Huh, yeah. And he shows you 3 new daggers.
Oh, wow. Those are
I got them for 20 gold.
nice.
You can see that Flood is finally walking out of the shop in his black armor. He's like, he's walking like slumped over, like.
What's got you down in blue, Flood?
He's still walking over, and he finally gets to you, and he says, "I can't get this armor off."
Yeah, sounds like a first armor to me, buddy.
Apparently, from what he said, I can't get it off until I die. But interestingly enough, it does increase my my magic.
At least there's a positive.
It increased my magic, my health, my stamina, my speed, my dexterity. It increases everything on me. He looks and says, "I will never, ever be able to have children." I'm gonna wither away. Momo walks around the back of Flood and sees a thing on the back of Flood's white shirt that says "Made in Taiwan." Sid maybe begins blowing into the baby's belly, and Momo asks Flood, "Flood?" Yeah, Momo. Begins looking at Sir Flood and says, "What is Taiwan?" Flood looks at him and says, "Huh?" He says, "The back of your armor says made in Taiwan." Flood looks at him and says, "What do you mean it says? What do you mean it says made in Taiwan?" And Momo says, "It has a little label thingy on the back of your armor that says made in Taiwan. It also says 100% pure cotton." Flood and Momo start tapping on his armor, and it sounds extremely like heavy, dense iron and steel. And he's like, "What in this is wool?" And all of you begin heading towards one last shop, all for the baby. You are all heading towards the gift shop for visitors to GristleMon, and you see that they're giving away certain toys, and you see what looks like a little bunny-like toy, and you get it for the baby, and it attaches to them. And the baby calms down and begins playing with the bunny. And upon reaching after leaving the store, you all begin heading towards the mine and see the orc with one arm struggling to pull off all the crap that he had on that cart that he absolutely needed help with.
Maybe we should go help him before we decide to go.
You can see him with one arm trying to pull off a crate that's like twice the size of him with one arm. It's like,
go Flood, go! Go Flood, go!
And you just see Flood start jogging happily. He's like running like...
Momo, the baby and I will stay right here. You go help too.
And you see Momo start running like Waluigi, like... Momo can't run properly because of his armor, and Flood is just giddy about having armor that increases all his stats. And they reach it, and Momo trips and twirls all the way and hits his head on the cart, and the crate just falls over and lands on the orc. The orc is no longer moving.
That's not the help I was talking about, but good job, guys.
The orc is no longer moving. You can see twitches in his one remaining arm, but he is no longer moving. You and the baby finally reach, and you see the box has fallen on top of the orc, and his fingers are twitching, and you just see Flood go, and he just gradually pushes the crate over, and you just see that the orc's arm is like puffed up, but the rest of him is like
flattened.
He's like flattened like a painting, like. He's still like twitching his fingers, like he has movement in there. Can't move anything else, and you just gradually see his eyes like slide over and look at you guys, but you hear the stone sound of like stones being pushed as his eye moves over towards you guys, like.
Let's get this crate off him.
Flood looks at you and says, I thought it was off for now. Wasn't that the whole point of it? And you see Flood go and put his hand up against the orc's mouth and begins...
You're filling with water.
And you see it's literally like a water balloon. He starts off flat and then gradually... Oh, so he starts expanding more. Flood realizes, oh crap. And then gradually starts sucking all the water out. He's like, oh! And you hear him crack every single part of his body, like, oh! Am I alive? Or is this hell? I can't tell anymore. I've met morons. Momo's still unconscious from hitting his head on the wagon. You just see the orc go and drag Momo into the mine. He's like, alright. And dragging him into the mine.
That's not so bad.
And just throws him in there and says, have that ride. You just see him start getting glided along some train tracks. Looks at Flood. You too. Flood just walks inside. He picks you up by the back of your collar as you're about to walk away and just says, you too. And starts walking with you and the baby into the mine. And You all like finally catch up to Momo, who's rammed into another train cart that's down there, and like you can see that Momo's like this. He's finally gaining consciousness when he's like tilted and awkwardly placed, like he's like finally like hit an immovable object. And the baby's getting excited because she sees Momo, and all of a sudden you see Flood catch up to him and pick him up and dust him off a little bit and says, "All right." Looks at the orc who's carrying you and the baby and says, "What exactly are we doing down here?" And the orc says, "Well, I need help." "With what?" The miners are missing."
Sounds like we got some work to do.
And the orc looks at you guys.
Hmm.
It says, "Well, I appreciate that.
No.
The last time I saw him was about 2 months ago."
They've been missing for 2 months?
"That I don't know. I've been gone for 2 months.
Have you checked around town?
Everybody said that they haven't seen anybody come out of the mine within the last 2 months. I was the last person they saw."
Well, I guess we gotta investigate.
So I had to unload everything by myself. I got squished by myself, and now I got you guys. I do appreciate you guys coming down here and deciding to help me with this. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, 'cause we had free will.
The goblin didn't. You in particular didn't, because I dragged you. The knight could have said no at any point. He just walked in. And you just see a black, watery substance start flowing off of Flood.
I don't like that.
And you see Flood's eyes go from a shade of green to a shade of blue to a shade of black. Flood tilts his head and stares at you and the orc, still holding Momo. And the water begins circling Momo.
Mm-mm.